Welcome back to Hardcore Ultimate Iron Man. I am currently beating the Ice Queen to death with a lunar staff, because that is the weapon, well, weapon, very much in quotation marks, that is currently outside of my looting bag. Doing this, of course, to get ice gloves, because I have some smithing plans at the blast furnace. The lunar staff is not the best weapon by a long shot, but I do have the Glory and Barrow's gloves helping out. There you go. Ice gloves. And now, what I probably could have done before this, getting stuff out of the looting bag. Could have brought a weapon with me to get the ice gloves. Either order is fine. Not a huge deal. Here we are. Wilderness. In the wilderness. Destroy the looting bag. In the wilderness. Also, this is a high-risk world, which actually doesn't matter at all for me. As an Ultimate Iron Man, you lose everything every time. So, losing everything is more of a deterrent for other people than it is for me. So, in theory, that could be the correct world to drop stuff in the wilderness. Ironically enough. But there's all the things fitting in the inventory very nicely. Now, another looting bag. Wow. Here's something weird. Apparently minecarts count as weapon, possibly shield, and boots. Or it's a visual glitch. That's also possible. Anyways, here we are. Heading to the blast furnace. Could have just taken the minigame teleport over here, but then we wouldn't have seen that weird thing with the minecart, so. Pros and cons, I suppose. Heading down here, we're going to take a hammer, because we're going to need to hammer things for the method we're doing. But that raises an inventory problem. I'm aiming for 20 inventory slots. Hammer is one of them. The stuff for later is here. So ultimately we could have just done another bunch of opening the looting bag, dropping everything, getting it back. But instead we're just going to temporarily say goodbye to the lunar staff. We can get this back for 30k. And high alch the rune pickaxe, which is less of a loss than that even. We're going to need this for the next thing we're doing. But for now, it is gold. And that's fine. We are here at the blast furnace with our ice gloves and a fire rune producing staff and nature runes aplenty. Because we are going to be making mithril plate bodies. Trading with this guy. Get an inventory of mithril. Put it on the bar, or belt. And then 2 inventories of coal. Doing all of this in a non-blast furnace world. So it lets me put the ores on here. And then world hopping to the blast furnace world, where it automatically makes the bars without me having to pay anything. Then I just take the bars, smith them up over here, and we're good to go. Mithril plates. There would be a method here to do 5 plates per world if I could get to 25 inventory spaces, which we could almost do if we had the Incamdo hammer, but we haven't gotten that, and it also goes into the main hand, I'm pretty sure. So then we'd still be stuck with 24. We could also just put the fire runes in the rune pouch. That would technically be possible if we had the hammer, but we don't. So, 4 Mythal Plate bodies. Good enough. Also get a little bit of magic experience from this, which is nice. And it's very close to break even, one way or the other. So with this, we've got some smithing training to do. 71 smithing. That is adamant axes and Shazian supply greaves 3. Cool. There's a shop that sells adamant axes now. That's not a huge concern. And Shazian supplies, not too useful either. It's less about all of the unlocks and more about specific things. But there we go. It's a smithing level. Ta-da. 72 smithing. You can make adamant maces and crystal legs. And that is the level we needed. Not for the mace or the legs, by any means. And technically, we could get another level, but we don't really need to. We are looking at the level 73 requirement to use these adamant bars. But since we don't have 73, we need to get some boosts, which is easily accomplishable. Just heading over here to Birthwarp. We're getting Dwarven Stouts from the shop here. Only 2 coins each. Very convenient. And these give a +1 smithing boost. So it's going to be a little inconvenient to use them like this, seeing as how every minute we're going to need to drink another one. But for the most part, we'll be able to make this work. Adamant bars, unnoted, and back and forth to the anvil. Making bolts. We've got 200 bars. That's going to be 2,000 bolts, which is a lot. So we just smith these, and eventually the smithing level will go down by 1. Then we drink another Dwarven Stout, rinse and repeat. Probably have to go back and buy more Dwarven Stouts. Overall, making these unfinished bolts. See if when the boost goes down we can't continue smithing. That's entirely possible. I mean, we also kind of need to be smithing when it happens. So let's get back over here. Continue making bolts, and we can't. Although technically that did drop to 72 as we're smithing. I fully expect that we won't be able to continue if it drops. So it's probably checking every time we go to smith, but that's fine. If it's 1 stout per inventory here, still a lot faster than getting a whole another smithing level. Only took 15 Dwarven Stouts. That is all the adamant bars smithed into bolts. And our strength has been destroyed. Strength, attack, defense. Anything else it's lowering? Nope. But honestly, that is very fixable. Just go to the house, use the pool here. Super restores. Very convenient. But now, the next step, of course, is fletching the bolts. Come over here to the Fishing Guild, which we have a teleport straight to, and to the fishing shop, because they sell feathers. If we drop more of this stuff, we can just buy it all at once. 20 packs of feathers is 2,000 feathers. Except we need more than that, because we have 2,080. We'll just buy loose feathers here. So now we got feathers, we got bolts, and we need to make the bolts. A little bit of fletching experience. Not bad. Oh, there's gonna be a lot of clicks. Okay. Here we are. And that is 72 fletching. You can make heavy ballistas and U shields. Okay. Is that going to be the limiting factor in making the adamant? The shields, that'd be U shields, which is the third best. And if we go into crafting here, there's black, red, blue. So no, we already used a boost to get to the fletching level required to make that shield required to make the blue d'hide shield, which we have. Okay. Next would be red, and that would require the magic shield, and that is 87. So not quite there yet. But if we ever need to make another blue d'hide shield, we won't have to boost fletching. Convenient. It's honestly very quick. Spam fletching things. There is 2,000 adamant bolts. The exact same range strength as the broad bolts, but that is not what they're here for. Hammer, don't need that. Now we need to go and get back the things that we removed from the inventory in order to do the smithing portion. Lunar staff and a rune pickaxe. Going to cost me a whopping 60,000 GP. But we also did make money with the mithril plate method, so I'm fine with that. A fully charged glory will help quite a bit, as we are going to the gem mine. The lower section of the gem mine, also, because it has way more rocks. But here we are, mining these to get specifically rubies and diamonds. Of course, there's also all the other gems too, so that's the thing that's going to happen. The rubies and the diamonds are 1 in 25 and 1 in 32. So, combined, we're going to be here for a little bit. On the plus side, mining experience. And geodes, I suppose. Not really in a clue scrolly mood right now. And we also get some crafting experience for cutting all the gems that we get, which is nice. And then we can go a little bit further. We could alch some of these gems, like at least the emeralds, maybe. Let's see how much experience it gets for these making bolt tips. 4 fletching XP. It's really not very good, is it? Probably would just be easier to drop Jade's opals. Could alch the sapphires. Alk the sapphires, alk the emeralds, drop the red topazes, opals, jades, and crushed gems, and get ruby and diamond bolt tips. Because the amount of fletching experience for making the bolt tips from everything else, not really worth it. We've got, how many alks? 6,500? I think we'll be okay. But in total, I want to get enough ruby and diamond bolt tips for all these bolts. And if each one is 12, we're going to need quite a few gems. So we're going to be here for a bit. $77 crafting. Red dragon hide. Body armor. We've got the Ceradomin D-hide now. So red D-hide top, not too useful. 74 mining. Nothing there. But it's another level. That's good. Mining gems is decent experience. 65 each. So, not bad. 75 mining. That's an entire mining level here. It's been a lot of gems. We are almost done. Not bad XP. Not bad at all. Well, that is enough bolt tips. As expected, more rubies than diamonds, but not by a huge amount, so that's okay. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you're feeling, putting the tips on the bolts is not something you can just spam like crazy. So we just sit here, making 10 at a time. All the diamonds, and then all the rubies. Assuming that I can make the last 2 here, that'll be a very, very tiny amount extra diamond than ruby. Make it slightly more even here. Yeah, it's 2,000 bolts. Not gonna take too long. Goodbye. 8 extra ruby bolt tips. You are worth not very much, so that's alright. And that leaves us with diamond bolts and ruby bolts. But of course, that is insufficient. I guess we technically do have everything we need here, actually. I was going to go buy a whole bunch of fire and earth runes, but I literally have a staff that does that, so unnecessary. Enchant crossbow bolts. We got ruby. And we got diamond. There's some best way to click this so that constantly, it's probably every tick, but each of these is enchanting 10 bolts. As long as we do it right, which we're very much not. That's the idea. So I'm going to enchant all these bolts. Also, we can just not do that, and it automatically goes this often. Definitely slower, but less annoying also. Nice to have options. And there they are. 1108 Ruby Bolts E. With their special ability of doing 10% damage to me and 20% damage to the target. So, we take 9 damage, and the enemy takes up to 100. In certain situations, very, very good. And Diamond Bolt's E, with a special effect of ignoring most of the target's range defense. So, very accurate. Much more powerful than Broad Bolts, which are just basic bolts. Might even have higher range strength. Yep, by a little bit. So that's nice. But now we have 3 sets of bolts. And that's a lot. So let's get something to fix that. We spent a few hundred cosmic blood and law runes enchanting these bolts. Now we can spend a little bit more. Talking to Hiroko here at his crossbow stall in Keldagrim, asking about ammo. And he has the bolt pouch for 1500 GP. In here, we've got spaces. We got empty spaces, extra ammo, and current ammo. And we can just pop all of these in here. And even a blessing. Let me put crossbows mode. Why is this on current ammo? I guess it's current ammo. It's in the extra pouch then. So you can equip a holy blessing. Here's a bolt pouch. Pouch for restoring crossbow. I can't wield it. I was hoping I could wield it. Here is Diamond Bolt's E on the extra page. This isn't quite what I was hoping for. Bolt pouches are very strange. So technically, that's 3 inventory spaces. If we look at this, it's showing our current ammo, and the extra ammo is diamond bolts. Move this. Now the broad bolts are in the extra ammo slot. Whether that means it will fire broad bolts, I'm not entirely sure. And it's still taking up an inventory space, which is definitely worse. We can click to wear broad bolts. That will take out the blessing. If we open the bolt pouch here, it has benefits of being able to switch to the bolts here. Kinda. It's still taking up an inventory slot, as if you had the bolts. So, instead of doing this, we could just switch the bolts like this. It's not a huge concern to have broad bolts all the time. So, maybe not quite as useful as I'd hoped. The image on the wiki made it look like you could have the Holy Blessing and possibly it was equipable. Makes sense that nobody really uses this. Bolt pouch. We can destroy it. If it had any bolts in it, they'd be dropped on the floor. That's fine. Not too useful. So I guess we've just churned the adamant bars into 2 kinds of bolts. That's alright. Destroy. It's an interesting idea, but not quite what we need. So we got some new bolts, which are going to be very nice. We can easily fire them with the rune crossbow. And we will do so very soon. In another quest. But first, I've got one more upgrade that I'd like to make. It's time to get, let's say, angry. Next time. Goodbye.